Do any of you remember that? You know, that was in the late 70s, early 80s. Is the story of this astronaut, Steve Austin, who had a car accident. I mean, a car accident. He was flying, and his aircraft crashed, and they thought he was going to die, but suddenly, I don't know if it was the NASA, but I guess the NASA decided that they were going to experiment with him, and they decided to give him 2 new bionic legs. His right arm is going to be also a bionic arm, and I think it was the left eye, the right eye. Okay, watch the TV show. You will know more then. But it was amazing, because then he became this man who was very strong. He could run at 60 miles per hour. I remember he was able to jump from the top of the building to the land, and nothing would happen. I mean, do you remember that stuff? Or am I the only one who was? It was awesome. I couldn't wait every week to watch that TV show. I know some people here were born in the late 80s, and they don't even know what I'm talking about. But it was awesome, because in many ways he was put back together after the accident. He received a new body. And it seemed to me that after receiving a new body, it's almost like he received a new mission in life. He became a special agent, and he was doing all these rescue missions and, catching the bad guys, and it was just awesome. I think that after the success of that TV show, another TV show came out, The Bionic Woman. Now, you remember that too. That was awesome too. And I think at some point, weren't they dating in real life or something? Anyway, that's just too much. But it was just awesome. I just love those TV shows and the music, and it was just really cool. Every week, again, I couldn't wait to see those TV shows. And it really made me think about this whole idea of the body of Christ. Because in many ways, we too, when we become people of faith, we become part of a new body. We become part of the body of Christ. And as Paul is telling the church in Corinth, for as just the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. So here is this church in Corinth that, again, let me just remind you, maybe, I don't know, every time we read the Bible and we read the stories of these people, we think they're so removed from us. But here is this church in Corinth who was having a lot of internal problems. There was a lot of infight. There was a lot of putting down of each other. There was the factions, the rich against the poor, the educated against the uneducated. And Paul is beginning to see all these problems beginning to grow in the church. And so he needs to send this letter to remind the people, you are actually one body. And as one body, you can do amazing things. You can do so many good things, but you need to stay together. You need to respect each other. You need to encourage each other. You need to support each other, because if the work of Christ is going to be done, it's going to be through you. The reality is that Jesus is here with us in spirit, but not in his physical body. And so if the body of Christ, the physical body of Christ was to take shape and form on this earth, it is through us. And so this is how it works. If Jesus wants the child to learn, then he finds a teacher that will teach that child. If Jesus wants healing for somebody, then Jesus goes and finds a physician to do the work of healing. If Jesus is in need of someone to tell his story on this earth, then he goes and finds someone who has a voice to tell the story. And I think you're beginning to get the idea. If Jesus is to do anything on this world, it has to be through you and through me. It cannot be done otherwise. We could ask for the angels, we could ask for a lot of things, but the only way the work of Christ is going to be done on this earth is if we make a commitment to do the work together. And I hope that by now, all of us who claim to be Christians, All of us who claim to be Christians have become part of this body that needs to be moving and serving and functioning. We need each other. We desperately need each other to do the work of Christ on this earth. The other day I went to a shopping center, and I was in a hurry, but it was apparently at a time when a lot of people were there. So I went to the shopping center, and there was no parking. And it took me, I went around a couple of times. There was no parking, until there was a parking all the way to the end, the last one. It was tucked in right back, on the right side. It was just like this tiny parking space. I was very excited. I said I was going to go for it. There were no cars. I was getting there. But then as I get to the parking spot, I realized that I couldn't park because the parking space was really little. It wasn't enough for my car. And you know why? Because the park next to it was invading my parking space. Has that happened to you? When a car is taking 2 parking spaces. And he wasn't taking like half of it, just enough to not allow my car to park. And so as I got out of the car to see if I could maneuver, because I'm a really good driver, just so you know, and so I'm really good at parking. And so I got out and I was doing my measurements, so I decided to just why is this person parking on my space? So I was just looking and started to walk to the end of that row of cars that were parked. And I was walking and looking at all the cars, and I walked like 6 cars. All of them were on each other's parking space. Until now, I got to the last parking, to the one at the end, who was the one who started the mess. The one at the end was the first one who parked on the next parking space to his left or her left. And it was a domino effect. All of them then, because of that person, had to move their car a little bit to the point that I couldn't park. It was very frustrating, to say the least. I wanted to wait for that person to come out and say something. I didn't. But, you see, this is what happens. When one person doesn't do what it's supposed to do, everybody else is affected. And it is exactly the same thing what happens in the body of Christ. We all have skills. We all have talents and gifts. And when one of us doesn't do his or her parts, everybody else gets affected, because we are all connected. That rhymed without me meaning it to, but that rhymed. We are all part of the same body. And if one of you or I'm the one failing in what God is calling me to do, everything gets out of joint. Everything gets out of place. Everything is not done the way it's supposed to be done. And we are all certainly affected by the work that we could all do together if we were all working at the same time. This chapter 12 that was read to you, where Paul introduces this beautiful idea of the body of Christ, of the church as being this body that has legs and arms and eyes and a nose and an ear. This beautiful image come right just before chapter 13 of Corinthians, which is the chapter of love. That chapter that you get to hear at weddings. Love is kind, love is gentle, right? Love is not envious or boastful. Love is not arrogant or rude. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in truth. It hears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love and never ends. You remember that part? That beautiful, that we know when you feel butterflies of how beautiful love is? My hunch is that the Apostle Paul, before we can get to the chapter of love, we need to get to the chapter of the body of Christ. Because if the body of Christ is not working correctly, is not supporting each other, chapter 13 will never become a reality. Because first, we got to learn how to work together, how to be together, how to support each other. Chapter 13 will never become a reality unless we realize that we all have a work and a task to do, and we have to do it together, not separately. Today, I'm actually not here to make you feel guilty for not serving in the church or not doing things in the church. I'm actually not here. I mean, I know that guilt can work for a little bit, but guilt doesn't really provide the solution, you know. For those who are parents, you know, you can understand me. You can make your child feel guilty for a little bit, but that doesn't mean he or she's going to change their behavior. There has to be love. There has to be an understanding that this is good for you in order for you to change. And so this morning, I'm not here to make you feel guilty about the need that all of us need to be serving. I'm here to encourage you and to tell you that if we take seriously the fact that we are all called to serve God, that we as the body of Christ here in Bellsville, we could be unstoppable. I just want you to think of all the amazing things that we could do if we were all participating in the work of Christ in this church, through this body. I can tell you, we will be, as I said before, unstoppable. We will be doing wonderful, amazing things, even more. I came across this story from this Methodist missionary, E. Stanley Jones, and I know that you hear from him every other week because I like him a lot. But he was saying that one day he was invited to a baptism of some people in India. And he was invited to this baptism of this group of people. And the bishop came. And the bishop that came, he had a reputation for being a little bit, maybe should I say, obnoxious, maybe, or, you know, pompous. I mean, I don't know. He had a little bit of an attitude. And so he's there to participate in the baptism, and he asked the people who are about to be baptized, how did you become a Christian, and what does it mean for you to be a Christian? And maybe in the back of his head, the bishop was hoping to say, well, bishop, it's because of you for sending these missionaries that are so wonderful, for sending the money and for helping us. It is because of you that we have become Christians. And maybe he was expecting this amazing response where he was going to be the one who, you know, was going to sound really good. But the people, all they said in their answer was, we are Christians. We are being baptized this morning because we want to live like Mr. Murray, you know, the missionary that you sent. Because in everything that we see in him, in everything that he does for us, in the way he serves, we see Christ in him. And that's for us the reason why we want to be baptized and become Christians. This morning I just want to paraphrase a little bit of the words of President John F. Kennedy in one of his famous speeches when he said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Now I'm going to paraphrase it. And I'm going to tell you this morning, ask not only what Christ can do for you. Ask what you can do for Christ today. And this is the challenge that I want to present to you this morning. Where can you fit? Where is your place in the body of Christ? You have in front of you, once again, I'm going to ask you to get your bulletins out. And this time, it's a green piece of paper that I want you to look at. Well, green is green for me, but it's blue for you. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me and paying attention. Blue. Blue like the blue of many things. Yes. I want you to look at that commitment card and take a few moments to fill that commitment card.